All right. I'd like to welcome you all today again to the Statewide Lab Partnership. We are meeting today. Unfortunately, this is a day that not many of the DHHS people will be able to join us, and that is because they are at the CDC, I believe, for a epidemiology meeting. So I believe that we will have majority of our client services people here and some of our NPHL people here to answer any questions that might come up today. So I'd like to welcome you all. Please make sure to sign into the chat box, and you'll find that chat box down there right on that ribbon. So put your name and as well as your location or your facility name. I greatly appreciate that. Also, if you have somebody in the room with you, like you're in a conference room, please include all of them. So we'll open up today with any new attendees. I know that on our side, actually, we have a new person by the name of Lacey Pavlonsky. I hope I haven't killed the last name, but it is the person taking Margaret Drake's place for the state's infection prevention. And she will be able to answer any questions along the lines of IPs. So we welcome you, Lacey. Are you on? She was going to try to join us. Not sure if she really did, though. So, okay. So continue to type into the chat your name and your facility name as well. I greatly appreciate that. Okay, as for outbreaks, I think obviously what's on everybody's mind right now is the fact that monkeypox is surrounding us. The last I heard, there's more than 80 specimens, or excuse me, cases around the United States. It includes 19 different states. Nebraska has not had one yet. But as you may have noticed in your local newspapers, I bet it's been covering to say, please watch out for it. So the first thing I want to do is to remind everyone the basics of PPE. When it comes to monkeypox, as you know, PPE will have to be an advanced PPE, both with the patient and in the clinics to work with the patient, and that advance includes your respiratory protection. So it would be an N95 or face mask or something of that sort, so to protect the eyes. This is a respiratory borne or an airborne virus, and we do want to protect everybody. So I have included right here under monkeypox a link to the NETEC review of PPE. It's called Back to Basics, but I think it's pretty good, not too long. So I would definitely make sure and read that, share with your facility, make sure that they are doing the advanced PPE. So what about laboratory? I wanted to share that we are happy to say that the DOT has officially moved this to a Category B specimen. Some of you may not have known it was categorized or classified as a Category A. So that would have presented a lot of problems, just like Ebola did, that clinics and such are not trained to do Category A. So this will definitely make it simpler. Any courier ground courier should be able to take it. And we do recommend using the category B box for shipping. So one thing that we are working on, I'd like to change my share screen. If I can find it. Yeah, here we go. That would be this particular document. I hope you can see that, but we are trying to bring up a collection and transport of specimens. I might even separate these before I put them on our website. So just simply collecting the specimen, again, is utilizing advanced PPE. And in fact, it will have some hints of performing hand hygiene, just like we did in Ebola, but that is not to say that this is an Ebola specimen. We're just recommending that in these settings of collection, when you are working with wet scabs or draining scabs, like the CDC recommends, that you might think of wiping down the specimen tube after it's collected, that once you put it in the secondary container, which is your biohazard specimen bag, you wipe the outside of that bag. And then, of course, before you hand it out to the patient, or excuse me, to the outside world, or to the laboratorian who has come to pick up the specimen, or anybody transporting it to the laboratory, that there is one more hand hygiene. And what do we mean by hand hygiene? Is either another change of gloves, or simply using your gel right over the glove and going ahead and waiting for that to dry. So either of those can be considered hand hygiene, and this procedure will be placed on our website. Again, as far as specimen collection, as you will note, a category B box is fine. Even our category B boxes with the newer transport box, but that comes with a silver pouch to keep the specimen cold. Of course, you will be putting frozen gel packs into that silver pouch, and then go ahead and put it in the white box. Do not put it in dry ice. Most of you don't have dry ice. Although we do, as NPHL, we do ship to NPHL, or excuse me, to CDC on dry ice. But for the day or two that it takes for you to get the specimen, it is okay to get it to NPHL via just refrigerated. But to keep it refrigerated, you do have to use a frozen gel pack. All right. And then, of course, I probably should add our address for anybody of you that do not have our address. The majority of our boxes are pre-labeled, so you should already have the correct address on there. All right, so it does require, the only paperwork it requires, or that we are asking you to use, is the category B shipping paper. If you're using ground shipping. Obviously, this does not have to be used when it comes to shipping via FedEx. If you are using FedEx, it just needs the air bill, and we will provide that air bill for you if you do need it. Give me a call if you don't have any information on how to do that, and I will help you out in that regard, because we'd be happy to do the FedEx shipping if you do not have a ground courier. So I went through that all very fast, and so I thought I'd open it up very quickly to questions about monkeypox. So please unmute, and I'd be happy, and I know any of us here at NPHL who are on would be happy to answer questions. Do I have any questions? Okay, Pete, would you like to say anything about the monkeypox at our testing that we do here at NPHL?
Yeah, I could. I guess if I say anything, I wish it would go away. It's just been another headache that we've had to deal with in the public health lab. But just for folks to know that the testing that we
You
do.
know, I cannot hear anybody. So is there a problem? Does this need pre-approval? First of all, Pete, are you talking?
I am talking. Can you not hear me?
Am I not hearing anybody?
I can hear him.
Can somebody say something so I know you're on?
I can hear.
Okay, see everybody
that's
here.
This is Brian Lenz. I can hear.
Don't have. So
Okay,
hold on.
So Karen, you're the one that can't hear.
Okay, much better.
Okay, can you hear me
All
now,
right.
Karen?
Pete, are you on?
I'm on. Can you hear me?
You can hear others, but you can hear Pete. Okay.
So Brian, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, Dr. Iwan.
Okay, well, I'm gonna talk then. I'll send Karen a chat, tell her I'm talking. How's that?
All right.
So let me just share with the group. Karen can't hear me, but I'll share with the group that the public health lab is running the monkeypox RT-PCR test, and it is a fully what do you want to call manual test that we're running. So the CDC did not make it simple for us, and it takes about probably 3 to 4 hours to run a test. So we can't just do them willy-nilly, and hopefully we've got the state now looking at every request for monkeypox testing, and they are scrutinizing these, and we're only getting very few into the public health lab. I might share also that we are doing testing for the state of Oklahoma, for their public health lab, because they don't have the capacity to do testing. And we have had positive monkeypox from the state of Oklahoma. So just in case you hear that we're getting positives in the Nebraska Public Health Lab, they're not coming from our state at this moment. So just to let you know that. So any questions, comments that anybody has? If not, I'll send a note to Karen and tell her I'm done talking.
Okay. Well, I've tried my earphones now. Can you hear me still? And I don't hear anybody. Okay. Thank you, Jess. I don't know why I can't hear anybody.
Karen, this is Brian Lenz. Can
My
you hear
volume
me?
is up. My mute is off. So we'll just go ahead and keep going. All right. And with that, I wanted to know, Pete, if you could tell us if there's anything we need to know about COVID or any of the Omicron variants.
Just to let everybody know that we continue to do sequencing of positive COVID samples. We do want as many positives as we can get to sequence for the variants. Our shift in variants, we are going from the Omicron 2 variant to the BA.4, BA.5 subvariants, and depends on which day the test is run, we're getting about a 30 to 50% positivity rate of the BA4, BA5s. So now we're seeing a shift in the variants again. Our positivity rate in the public health lab has gone up. There seems to be a little more testing going on in the laboratory. I will assume that most other labs are seeing an increase in testing as well. So there is a shift. Let's hope it stays minor, that we don't see as many hospitalizations, but that's kind of where we're at with the SARS-CoV-2 testing. Does anybody have a question on that? If not, I'll send Karen a note to tell her I'm done talking. Karen is coming down to my room. Okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
Karen, you're here.
So sorry. Yeah, thank you. Otherwise I was gonna
Okay.
have you MC the meeting.
Okay, Karen's in my office now, so
All right.
here we are. I'll put my video on so you can see us both. Here we are.
All right. Well, thank you. Did you?
I shared. I did
Okay.
share.
All
Yeah.
right. Agenda. After that, we'll go ahead and are there any other questions about influenza? I know it's been a long season. We are still asking anybody who has positive point of care testing that you continue to send those specimens to us. And I know RSV has been out there in the past in fairly large numbers. Are we continuing to see those though?
Not so much. I'd be curious to know if any labs have seen any PCR positive influenza Bs in their laboratories. We have not seen any. It seems like we kind of missed the B swing this year. It just didn't show up.
Okay.
So hopefully we're about done with influenza. We're getting a sporadic positive A influenza, but it's pretty sporadic and it seems like it's going away pretty much.
Okay.
But Karen did say if you do get an antigen positive influenza, we would love to get a sample for PCR testing to verify that it is a true positive. Anytime this summer.
True. And I know that Robin Williams, who isn't here today, would tell us that if you are part of those Sentinel sites that collect routinely for surveillance, if you haven't used all your boxes, please do use them through the summer if you see anything with the ILI or influenza-like infections. So please continue to use those. Okay, if no questions on influenza or RSV, we thought we'd go on to the GI outbreak. Normally, I have Brianna mention something here. She's our epi person to keep up with all our GI outbreaks. She has shared with me salmonella, of course, in peanut butter as well. There was a peanut butter recall. Hate to say name names, but Jif, I think, was the one. And I think that backyard poultry is still an
That's
issue.
always been an issue, yes.
That has always been an issue. Yeah, correct. So if you see any salmonella, doesn't even have to be serogrouped because most laboratories don't handle the serogroup latex test anymore. So it can be sent to us. We'll do that grouping or serotyping, and we'll go from there. Or Pete, would you recommend they send it to their reference?
Well, no, any salmonella, any stool positive for salmonella, whether it's you got the isolate or whether you've got a positive stool in maintenance media, should come to us.
Right, if you're biovirus positive,
Yeah,
certainly.
yeah, we will actually culture those if you send those to us. The other stools we would like to get is if you get a positive cryptosporidium, whether it's from a multiplex PCR like a BioFire or whether you're doing an antigen-based test, those should be sent to us as well as cyclospora. We have seen a few cases of cyclospora pop up already this year. So we are part of a national program called CryptoNet,
Yes.
to do sequencing of cryptosporidium and cyclospora. So we like to get as many as we can from our state, and we welcome those to be sent to us.
As far as the cryptosporidium, I know that that's one that it sometimes is missed. Again, I recommend that laboratory managers make sure to remind your staff to send those out. And if any positive comes up, just have them dig it out right away, even though they might have put it away in the refrigerator for storage. Please remind them to send them. I don't know if you look at your reports the next day, or if you do that on a daily basis. If you see that positive cryptosporidium, please make sure that your employees have sent those in.
That would be good. And I just wanted to comment, Dr. Broderson from the Vet Diagnostic Lab, I believe you're on this call.
Yes,
We are getting some samples from you as well. I think we've worked out a way to get some from animal testing, because we are interested in doing some comparison between animal and human for epi purposes. So we appreciate you saving those samples. The one thing is, I think the last time we got a bunch from the same herd. We want to get them from multiple herds, just to kind of keep that in mind.
okay, all right.
So we appreciate you guys saving those for us. I think Justin, I can't remember who the person is we talked with, but I think we are getting some of those samples.
Okay, yep, we'll keep saving them.
Yep, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Any questions from our gang here? Other questions from our laboratories? Okay. All right, going on. So you can't see, I did not have the agenda up, did I? Dang. In regards to the arbovirus and leads, the people from the state again are not with us today. Arboviruses, I know that mosquito collection was very busy. What are we testing for at this point?
Well, we are testing mosquitoes for the common arboviruses that we might see, like Western equine, St. Louis equine encephalitis, of course, West Nile virus. I think we are receiving mosquitoes for testing, and I'm not aware of any positive pools at this point, so it's a little early in the season. Generally speaking, we start to see a lot of positives showing up about August, September is really when we start seeing the bulk of positives. So hopefully it'll be a slow year. We'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. So we see the mosquitoes positive first, and then the people start turning
And we
positive.
do like to get, if other laboratories are testing for West Nile virus, we do like to get positive CSF, spinal fluid, that come in, because we can send those off to the CDC and they do some additional testing on the spinal fluids. So if you're sending them to a reference lab or doing it in-house, if you could get samples that are positive to us, that would be great. We try to capture as many as we can.
Okay. Thank you. Anything on leads that we should share? I think that nothing has changed with leads other than, if you are not already aware, that leads levels have dropped, that pretty much anything that you see as a positive lead must be reported now. So that is very important to remember.
Are you on, Brian Lenz? Are you still on?
Yes, I'm on.
Brian, I believe there's been some program now that they're doing more of an increased screening of young kids for leads. Is that true? And has that started already?
I'm not aware of any program other than Medicaid,
Maybe that's one I
which
heard.
requires the screening of, that requires the screening of children on intake at a couple times during their life.
Okay.
We just got finished with the recall of the Lead Care 2 analyzer, so that volume has dropped off significantly.
Right.
And I believe other volume that was coming in through our commercial window regional lab was coming from children's physicians, and I believe they've started sending to ARUP. So
Okay.
that's what I know about labs.
Okay. Yeah, there was something in the World Herald last week about a new program for testing. So I wasn't sure if you were aware of that or not, but we can talk offline.
It might be through Douglas County possibly,
I think it was through
or is
Douglas
it
County.
statewide?
I think it, well, I'd have to look again, but we can talk offline about it.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Let's move on to antibiotic resistance. That is something that this month we're going to have an article out on our newsletter, specifically about Candida auris. That is an organism that we don't see much in Nebraska, and it's, I don't know if it's necessarily concerning. I mean, it's good to know, but we want to make sure and always watch for it. As laboratories move to maybe identification through MALDI or other methodologies, the methodologies are getting better, but there's still some quirky things that tend to happen, and this organism can be misidentified. So that's what we want to work with. I actually would like to get out to some of your laboratories and see how that works. If you have it in your MALDI, if it is in your library, to make sure it is correctly in your library, or if you have one of the older libraries, what organisms would be possibly misidentified for. So it's just to bring awareness to all of our laboratories about that organism in case it ever does plan on hitting Nebraska.
Well, it could very well. You know, in the Northeast, it's getting pretty high right now. Chicago area is very high volume. I'm a little surprised we aren't seeing more in Nebraska, and it may be an indication that we're not testing enough for it. I don't know. But if you're using Vitek or Microscan for IDs, there's certainly some key things to look for that suspect Candida auris. So kind of keep that in mind. If anybody has an isolate that they might even think could be Candida auris, we welcome to test that isolate for you and try to see if we can identify it. So keep that in mind as well. I suspect it's out there in our environment, but we probably just aren't picking it up. That would be my thought on it.
Okay. So I do think that more education on this particular yeast is important.
Yeah,
and
it is.
the reason I want to get out. So TB or anything else that anybody have questions on? I'll open up the mic again. Just put yours on unmute if you have questions. And Pete, I don't know, you can't bring up the chat. Can you to see if we're getting anything?
No questions.
No questions yet. Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, we're moving on. Chemical and radiological terrorism. Here in Omaha, we will be doing an exercise with a radiological scenario. We'll give you a report in September when that is completed. And so that's all I want to say about that. But client services, I want to always make sure that everything is going smoothly in our client services. I think I saw Jessica Carr. Anything you'd like to share? I know that Teresa's out this week.
Nope, nothing really to share. Everything's been going pretty well.
Okay, so if any questions come up when you're shipping a specimen, our NPHL Client Services is always willing to help. They're also known as Regional Pathology Services, RPS, and actually they do our NPHL work as well. So thank you all to Client Services. Don't know if Paul is on either. That any other comments to be had?
Tony Goldenstein, I think you're on. Anything you want to share?
No, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Tony is not available today to talk about biosafety. I think with that, I would love to just throw in a comment about risk assessments. One thing that we learned in the new update at the beginning of the year, or maybe it was the end of last year, that risk assessments now need to be done in our clinical laboratories in conjunction with your hospital safety group. So please, this isn't just your IQCPs. These are risk assessments that are required for any microbiology task, and that risk assessment should be done in conjunction with your safety committee in your facility. Both have to sign off on those risk assessments, and that is a new requirement of the BMBL, or more recommendation, I should say.
So let me share one thing there, Karen. The CDC is having a town hall on risk assessment for laboratory instrumentation on June 24th, and maybe you could send out that notice to
I will.
laboratorians if you would. I'm one of the participants talking. The goal of this town hall is to get as many manufacturers to listen and talk because of the issue of safety from instrumentation, and their instruments that are not safe, and trying to talk them into maybe looking at ways to re-engineer or to look at the future of getting their instruments safer. Not only for microbiology laboratories, but also for other labs sections like chemistry,
Oh, yeah.
hematology, blood banking, etc. So it's a way to kind of to talk from a national perspective on what it is when it comes to doing risk assessments on instruments, and what are the risky parts to these instruments, and how can we mitigate those risks, and will the manufacturers look at this and say, maybe we need to make these instruments safer for the laboratories. So I think it'll be an interesting discussion. It's about a 3-hour town hall that will be on June 24th.
Okay.
So Karen, if you could send out a notice on that, people might be interested to listen in.
Yes. Actually, I think it would be important to ask yourself or think back to the Ebola days when all laboratories were asked, could you handle an Ebola specimen? And if you remember, a number of the instrumentation companies said that if you tested Ebola, that would pretty much negate your warranty on that instrument. Well, I believe that companies have backed off, but on the other hand, have they done what it takes to test if necessary, if it were an emergency to be done in your laboratory?
And we're dealing with this today, even with the monkeypox issue. And the issue becomes, for instance, in our core chemistry area, if we run a monkeypox sample, do we need to then decon the instrument?
Yeah.
Well, if you decon the instrument, you have to shut it off for 2 to 3 hours. And this is our core facility. Well, we can't shut it down for 2 to 3 hours. So there's a lot of issues still going on with instrumentation, decon of instrumentation, safety of instrumentation. So I think it's going to be an interesting discussion to have. I think there's like 9 participants talking about this. Hopefully, the manufacturers don't really want to participate, but we're getting more and more of them.
Yeah,
So we'll see what happens. But it is sponsored by the CDC, so they've got a little bit of pull here.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I will make sure and get that invite out
Yeah,
to all of
okay.
you. Exactly, on June 24th.
June 24th.
All right. As far as any other safety notes, I wanted to quickly highlight that there is an organism called, I think it's Ochrobacterium. Am I pronouncing that right?
Chromobacter.
Yes, Ochromobacterium is being considered to be put into the Brucella genus. So you laboratories that do any amount of microbiology and being a part of the LRN and testing for potential organisms like Francisella and Brucella, this particular organism mimics Brucella. That's why they're putting it within this group, possibly. So is it going to be a problem for Sentinel Laboratories as they use the LRN protocol to test? I think that our motility and our urease is going to help rule this organism out. But I think I will also do an article on this to assist the laboratories that have to do the LRN protocol. So
We know that there's been misidentifications of Brucella as Ochromobacterium in
Exactly.
the past. And my feel is if there's any questions that you're isolating it from blood cultures, for instance, it might be worthwhile to consider sending it to us to make sure it's not a Brucella. Was a good paper, peer-reviewed paper on this published a few years back, and I'll get Karen, I'll get you the information on that.
Okay.
That maybe you want to send out to folks to think about, because it's not easy to differentiate Brucella from that organism. Ochromobacterium anthropi is the one that it misidentifies as.
And interestingly enough, I believe it's a rapid urease producer. So that's why it can be easily misidentified. So as is our Brucella. So any questions from our laboratorians in the microbiology areas? Okay. Hearing none, I just wanted to let you know that we've already set the dates for our next packaging and shipping. I am so sorry that I did not get out the links to register. We are going through, we started last week and this Wednesday also are doing some packaging and shipping. But I was out of the office for quite a while and did not get that link out. So again, if you have any employees that are not trained to do category A, definitely, and dry ice, if you have to ship dry ice in fairly large amounts, more than 10 pounds, you definitely have to be trained officially by the DOT. And that is the training that I offer. It is usually split between 2 dates. I can do it if anybody's interested in person, but it's a full 8-hour day. But let me know, we could consider that. Normally with what I do is Zoom, and still even 4 hours of Zoom, I don't wish on anybody. So we do lots of breaks. But yeah, we talk in depth about how to ship category A. All right. And the only other thing I had for New Alert, we haven't, some facilities have not used it for a while. Maybe COVID has really died down, and that's maybe the only thing they're testing. So a number of people have called in to say that they have lost their password or their password doesn't work. And that is because New Alert does look at inactivity. And if they see more than a month or so of inactivity, they will disregard that particular password. So I would recommend just on a monthly basis, logging quickly, just put it in your calendar to log in for a brief second, and that will be sufficient to keep your password active. So, all right, that's all I've got, Pete. Anything else that we can think of?
Can't think of anything.
Okay.
Anybody out there have a question, comment they want to bring up?
Don't see anything on chat. If you joined us late, please put your name down on the chat and a facility name. So thank you all for joining us today. Sorry about my computer glitch. And we will see you next month. But if you have any questions before that, don't hesitate to call us. All right.
All right, stay safe, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
You bet.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Yeah, that's right.